Hi everyone, I'm happy to be here today to share my perspective on how to scale APIs as a product for future success. My name is Samir Amzani. I'm leading the AsyncAPI team at Postman and also contributing to the open source AsyncAPI initiative. I've been over a decade in the API space, helping different companies with their API program, strategies, and scaling their API practice. 6 years ago, I was leading the API transformation for Adidas, trying to kill the monster that you see here in this image. That represents 6,000 point-to-point integration interfaces. That was frustrating and extremely challenging at the time, but also rewarding, and I also got some white hairs on the way. I've learned two things. I've learned that you cannot just kill 70 years of Adidas legacy, and I wanted to make a way to build APIs cheaper and faster than point-to-point integration. To address this challenge, we created an API Center of Excellence that was responsible for leading Adidas API transformation and move away from the old way of integrating to APIs as a product. We were providing two things, API management, and we were helping different teams with API design. This model didn't scale well as it was completely centralized. Then we switched to a more decentralized model by creating an API platform team. As a mission, we were providing API management as a service, and we were scaling the API practice in different teams, especially API design. That was the most challenging one to get right. By the way, do you know how much API developers have spent this year in API design? It's only 9%. So developers have spent only 9% in API design. I didn't invent this number. This is coming from the last State of API report done by Postman. And for me, this is not enough if we want to scale APIs. So having this number in mind, let's connect the dots with Martin Fowler's wisdom, who said, putting effort into the design of your software improves the stamina of your project, allowing you to go faster for longer. In more details, as you see here in this diagram, you can trade off design quality for time to market, especially when you start a new product or you have few features. If we project this in how we see API design first or API code first, it's the same story. Of course, you can do both, but keep in mind this trade-off and also the migration cost, because it's painful to go from the blue line to the red line. Another number I want to share is 15%. So 15% is the number of companies that says they are API first leader. They have shared with us that they produce APIs faster and they can recover quickly from APIs incidents. So the short answer for me on how to scale APIs as a product is to become an API first leader. A longer answer is that you need at least 3 ingredients. You need to establish a sense of urgency of why being an API first leader is critical. You need to enable your organization, and you need to sustain the change because it's a mindset shift. It's up to you how you use these ingredients, but I'm going to share some recipes. The first critical ingredient is to establish a sense of urgency. And the core idea of this one is to ensure that everyone understands and feel the sense of urgency. I've seen many companies and strategies failing because of missing this simple fact. This is why I've spent the first 3 months at Back Market collecting a couple of urgencies and burning problems. And one of them was filled by our SRE engineers during API incidents. They were struggling to find the right API owner. They were struggling to find the right API documentation. And even if they find one, it's outdated. So the core idea is to collect as much as possible from this kind of facts and communicate their importance. After that, we had to write an API vision. That is not just a boring statement, it's a live documentation that has a life cycle and a version. We created that in a participative way, and it was challenged by our engineers at least every 6 months, because technology is evolving, so we need to adapt. To validate our progress, we created some hypotheses. The first one was the API first hypothesis, as we wanted to shift from how we consider APIs, not just technical assets, but first-class citizens. We invested in providing APIs foundation, like common API guidelines and a single source of truth. And we were also verifying different things like the API developer onboarding and also API user satisfaction, or the Net Promoter Score. The second one was the consumer-centric hypothesis that focus on adopting API design first and scale up different teams. We also increased our expectation in terms of our API user satisfaction and how quickly we can recover from API incidents. The third hypothesis was the API as product hypothesis. The idea was to offer self-service APIs as a product by first establishing the role of API product owner in different teams, and also increasing the quality of our APIs and documentation. We also increased our expectation of what we measure. After establishing the sense of urgency, you need the second ingredient, which is enabling the organization. The key learning for this one is whatever model you adopt, you need to integrate the culture aspect of your company. For example, at Back Market, we created an API chapter that led the change for our 200 engineers. The API chapter was responsible for owning and leading the API vision and tracking API maturity in different teams. That was great, but we had some shortcomings, especially in terms of execution. This is why we decided to create an API enablement team to support the API chapter and grow API practice in our different product teams. To scale this model, we decided to establish the role of API champion within our product teams. And the role of the API champion was to track the API governance for his team and contribute to our common API guidelines and also challenge our API vision. Once you've enabled your organization for success, you need to sustain the change. The core idea behind this is to ensure to keep a strong commitment for change. This ingredient is not the easiest one to apply, as there are many moving parts that you need to keep track of. From understanding the leadership to understanding engineers' day-to-day frustration and resistance to change. One way to overcome this is to show progress. This is what we did at Adidas. We were tracking API maturity for our core APIs, and this kind of visual tracking helped a lot to get this sense of engagement and commitment from our different teams. In addition to that, you need to show some quick wins time to time, because it's a long change and people can get frustrated. For instance, at Back Market, we were sharing this kind of insights and KPIs, like the number of engineers finding APIs in less than 5 minutes. That has improved from 15 to 50%. Another KPI that we were sharing was the API users satisfaction, or API users Net Promoter Score, that has improved from -50 to +10. To sustain the change, you need also to keep rising awareness. At Adidas, for instance, we had this monthly engineering onboarding in Spain. That was an opportunity to raise awareness and skill up in API design. Then we switched to a virtual onboarding thanks to COVID. However, we missed the opportunity to enjoy Spanish tapas. Another aspect of sustaining the change is to understand your developer journey. By integrating whatever API tooling you decide for your engineers into your software development lifecycle. As an example, at Back Market, when an engineer creates a new service, it comes by default with the API linting, API contract testing, and documentation. We also see this trend happening in the API tooling space. For instance, today, it's possible to use your API tooling directly from your favorite IDEs. And this provides an awesome developer experience and enable your engineers to create great APIs. So that being said, I want to leave you with some takeaways. To scale your APIs as a product for future success, you need to be an API first leader. There is no shortcut. It's a big mindset shift where you need an API vision that involves your engineers. You need to enable your organization and sustain the change. Thank you.